God has given all of us a mission to make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God.
Minus 10, 9.
We want our church to be a launch pad for sending people out on the mission God has for them. Regardless of who you are, we all have a role to play. We are all involved in God's story. We pray that the story shared through Mission Control will encourage you to see how God is calling you to be used by Him. Hi, my name is Amanda Levy, and I'm the Communications Director at First Baptist Melbourne and the host of this podcast. And today, we have Connie Ricks joining us. Connie is actually a member of our missions committee. Dates are a little fuzzy. I feel like maybe it's been 10 years. Who knows? She's been a member of the church here for about 12 to 14. Again, dates fuzzy. But the dates that were solid in her mind, she worked for 26 years in church ministry. For 5 of those years in Troy, Alabama at a church doing what?
Preschool ministry.
Preschool ministry. And then 21 years working for the Florida Baptist Convention. Were all 21 of them with BCM?
Yes, all 21.
So Baptist Collegiate Ministries, that was something that personally touched my life. I went through BCM at UCF. And so I always would hear your name there. That's why I was a little surprised that you've only been here for like 12-ish years at Melbourne. But I'm really excited to just kind of poke your brain, see where God has you, what God's done through you, and things like that. Before we get into the depths of everything, though, thought we would start with a little fun space-themed icebreaker question. We also kind of reviewed this beforehand, so we kind of cheated, but I like Connie, so we made an exception. So your question, if you were stranded on a distant planet, like in a sci-fi movie, which movie character would you want as your sidekick?
My favorite character is Chewbacca.
And now she knows its name.
Pick him! He is the cutest and fuzziest.
So before we started filming, I asked her, I was like, where are you on the scale of, do you enjoy like sci-fi space movies? Because she told me she doesn't really know much about space. And she said, I really like that fuzzy character in Star Wars.
He's the best.
So we tailored it. Why do you like Chewbacca so much?
Well, I enjoy seeing him when I go to Hollywood Studios.
Okay.
Because my grandsons enjoy seeing him, and he always has so much fun playing with them when we're doing photos.
Oh, okay.
He's just cool.
Okay. Nice. Well, as much fun as it is to talk about outer space, that we might talk a little more about your space. So where does God currently have you on mission in your life right now?
Well, as you mentioned, I am involved in ministry with the missions team. Mm-hmm. And I started doing this because I have been involved in missions basically most of my life. And so I also am a part of the Wayne Life Group.
Okay.
And then my family also ministers at the Port Canaveral Seafarers Ministry.
Okay.
Which also is kind of like a flashback to my past, because my very first mission trip was to Seafarers Center in New Orleans.
Okay.
And so that was the bite of the missions bug for me.
Okay.
Where I fell in love with doing missions and telling people about Jesus.
Okay. How long ago was this, when you were like a teenager, a kid? Like, give us some context.
So when I was in Troy, Alabama.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So was this adulthood then?
It was. And me and my husband and both my daughters. I have 2 girls, and both of them, they were 4th grade and 6th grade, I think. No, they were younger than that. They were probably like 6 and 8 years old, and we went.
So your first mission trip was taking your whole family on a mission trip?
Yes.
That's exciting.
It is, and I love to do that.
Okay. Yeah, because y'all do a lot of family mission trips even now.
Oh, yeah.
We can get to that.
Yeah.
What exactly do you do with the Port Canaveral Ministries?
Well, the ships come in, and they have a lot of seafarers on them that don't have much personal time. Mm-hmm. And so when they get into the port, the Seafarers Center has buses, and they will go over and they will pick up the men and women and bring them to a center they have and cook a home-cooked meal for them They have a chapel. They'll have worship music and devotions. They have a little store there where they can buy things that they need. And so we usually go and cook, make the entire meal, and then talk with them, pray with them, take them shopping. Our church also does this.
Yeah. So how often do you do this? How did you get into this?
Well, my daughters got us into this.
Okay.
And so we thought that we wanted to support them, and we thought, well, we can do this on our own, And so we started out going once a month and doing it once a month. And now we do it. They call us when they need someone, and then we try to fill in there.
Okay. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So you take your family on a mission trip to New Orleans.
Yes.
What happened from there on? How did that affect the trajectory of things for you?
Well, it just made me fall in love with missions. And so then for the rest of my life, really, I was always looking for churches that were mission-minded. And that's basically why I decided on this church, because when I joined here, Pastor Larry, he was the pastor, and nobody loves missions more than him.
Yeah.
And so I could tell. I mean, David and I, we weren't here. David's my husband. We weren't here very long before we knew that this was where we needed to be, because missions was at the forefront.
Gotcha. How did you get into working in ministry? How did you come to faith in Christ and kind of start going in that direction?
Okay, well, so my mom and dad always made sure that we went to church, and I grew up in church, and I just never did make the decision to follow Christ publicly. I just put it off and put it off. And my grandfather, he was the most godly man I ever knew. And he was always talking to me about, you need to make the decision, you need to follow Christ. And so he died unexpectedly. And when he did, it just really hit me. You never did that, and I just put it off. I knew I was going to do it. And so we had his funeral on a Thursday, and on Sunday night, I went to my little hometown church and went forward and told the pastor I wanted to follow Christ. And I was baptized that same night.
How old were you?
I was 19.
Okay. And then at what point, so you've worked in ministry for 26 years. Have you always worked in ministry then?
No, David, my husband, he was in the Navy, and then he worked for the railroad, and so we traveled a lot. And then as soon as we finished traveling with his different things, we started our family, and I stayed home with my girls. And then when they went to preschool ministry, I knew I wanted to stay home with my children. And David, he was supportive of that, and so the church we were going to, which was First Baptist Troy, the children started in preschool, and so I just applied for a job and got a job there.
There you go. And then at what point did you move to Florida Baptist Convention then?
So then we moved from Troy to Jacksonville.
Oh, okay.
And we just happened to move next door to a man named Gary Nichols, who worked for the Florida Baptist Convention. And he knew that I was looking for a job. And he said, I know a great job. And so he told me about BCM, Baptist Collegiate Ministry. And he said, I want you to come meet my friend Loy. And so I went, and Loy hired me to work for him. And so I worked with him. What all
did you do in those years with BCM?
So I did a lot of things. I did some administrative things, a great deal of administrative things. And then I did conference planning because we had conferences. But my main responsibility that I loved the most was mobilizing college students to be summer missionaries and short-term missionaries.
Your name was definitely known in the student community.
Well, I mean, it was an amazing job. I loved it. And so not only did I work with college students, training them and resourcing them and mobilizing them all over the world, but I also worked alongside the North American Mission Board and especially the International Mission Board. So I would get to go to all these different countries and set up these projects and then see students go work with missionaries. So it was a pretty fabulous job.
Yeah. And you mentioned you actually knew Scott Wilson beforehand because he was one of your summer missionaries.
Yes. And Jason Mole.
And Jason Mole.
Leslie.
Man, so many names.
We had a meeting with your BCM director, Brad Crawford,
yes,
about a year ago, and I just got to thinking of all the people here that were former BCMers. And when we had the meeting, I invited them all to come, and there was probably 20 to 25 people in our church.
Wow.
Not just our staff, but other people that are in leadership in our church that were in BCM.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, huge influence.
Mm-hmm.
So, you worked there for 21 years.
Yes.
What kind of took the turn for you? I think I know the answer to this, but maybe I don't. At what point did you kind of leave from that, and how has God worked through that?
Well, what happened was I was not planning on leaving, but we had a reorganization at the convention, and my job responsibilities were going to really expand.
Gotcha.
And it was not going to just be BCM. It was going to be like preschool to seminary.
Okay.
And I just prayed about it, and I knew that God had someone perfect for that job, but I also knew it wasn't me.
Gotcha.
That also was around the same time that my family was getting very heavily involved in our ministry in Panama.
Yes.
And so, only God can figure all that out, but He did.
Yeah, so tell us about what your family was doing in Panama. How did y'all get started with that, and what were y'all doing?
Well, my involvement with Panama started with BCM.
Okay.
And so I would go down and take spring break mission teams with FSU BCM because there is an FSU campus in Panama.
Ah.
And so we would go down and orient the FSU Panama students to come to Tallahassee.
Okay.
And so I did that several years for spring break, and I always took my daughter with me. And so we just, we fell in love with Panama, fell in love with the country and the people, and just made such good friends. And so then my daughter, when they moved here, her and her husband, she was on the missions team.
Okay. Missions committee, you mean?
Missions committee,
yes.
yes.
Very good. Just keeping it straight in my brain.
Yes. Okay. And so she went to her first meeting, and they were like, we're picking some new partnerships. And surprise, guess where one was?
Panama.
It was in Panama. So our church in 2013, don't have a fuzzy date there.
Hey, there are some that are concrete. I can respect that.
2013, our church adopted, with the International Mission Board, the Hakka Chinese people in Panama. There were 400,000 Chinese people there. They came to build the railroad for the canal, and 500 Christians. And so they were considered unreached, and so we sent an exploratory team, and so we've been in partnership with them ever since.
How many times have you gone down to Panama?
Oh, my goodness.
Better question. How often do you make a trip to Panama these days?
Well, these days, because of COVID, we were on such a break because COVID really shut things down. But my entire family went in February, all 8 grandchildren, my 2 daughters, me and my husband. My 2 son-in-laws didn't go because somebody had to hold down the fort.
Gotcha. Pre-COVID, how often were y'all going down?
We would go, different people in my family would go 3 to 4 times a year.
Okay.
And different teams from our church.
When you went down, what are some of the things y'all were doing?
We would do English as a second language. So we started a corporation there because to have respect in the eyes of the Chinese business people, you had to be a business owner.
Gotcha.
And so we opened up a corporation, and we had a business there. And it was called the Learning Lab. And at the Learning Lab, it was for children. We would do we had all kinds of children that would come, but when we had teams down, they would play basketball. We had basketball teams that go. The English is a second language.
Gotcha.
And then at night, it would be like a coffee shop, tea shop,
Gotcha.
and a library
Okay.
where people could come and study.
So it's basically like a community center. Is the learning lab still running post-COVID?
No, it did not make it through COVID.
That's hard. COVID it feels like such this line, like pre-COVID, post-COVID.
I know. And so now,
So in February, what did y'all do?
So in February, we went down to help a church plant.
Okay.
We also, while we were there, we visited with our all of our Chinese friends.
Okay.
But it was with a church plant that's about an hour outside the city.
Okay. Nice. What are some influences that have been helpful to you in all of the different paths God's brought you on through this?
So it is. I mean, I can't even believe how faithful God is. But it's like I always have to look back and just see how God has showed up. Mm-hmm. But the lady that took me on my first mission trip, Peggy Cox, she, took me and my family on our first mission trip.
Yeah.
So she was a huge influence on our lives. Always encouraged us, to seek God's will. And I didn't mean for this to be sad.
You're good.
Okay. So then we moved, when me and my husband both got saved and started going to church. We were living in Charleston, and we went to a church called Dorchester Wayland Baptist Church, and we met a couple there that God just brought into our lives to basically adopt us and disciple us. And they were church planners. So then we moved to Jacksonville. We went to Fruit Cove Baptist Church, and my youngest daughter accepted the call to be a missionary there. And we just, they did a lot of mission trips, and we did a lot of community missions with them and a lot of mission trips. And then when I got here, I had Miss Gail Baser.
Yeah.
So we know how amazing she is.
Yeah.
But she was so encouraging. She was on the mission team, and she just, she went to Panama almost every single time we did. So was just amazing.
Yeah. Was it scary saying yes to that first mission trip and bringing your entire family and your kids? I mean, it's just New Orleans, but still, it's like new territory.
Yeah. I don't remember it being scary. But that was a really long time ago.
Did it feel, I guess what I'm getting at is, what encouragement would you have for someone who might be listening to this and thinking like, yeah, maybe it'd be a good idea to go on a mission trip, but I have kids, and how would that even work? And time off is such a thing. What are some of your advice, or how would you kind of speak into some of those roadblocks someone might feel like they have?
Well, I'm not the good person to ask this, and I'm going to tell you why. Because, Harper Gale, we took her on a mission trip with us to Panama when she was 3 months old.
Okay.
And Austin, when he was 10, he went to South Asia on a mission trip. And so it's a part of our family's life for our children to be involved in missions.
Yeah.
And maybe we should be fearful, but we don't, for some reason, God has removed that from us. Now, when my daughter moved to Panama to be a full-time missionary, I was happy and sad.
Yeah.
I was so happy they were going to be missionaries there.
Yeah.
But they took my 2 grandkids. And so I was sad. And then I thought, don't be that person. Don't be that person that holds them back from doing God's purpose in their life. This will be the best thing for those children. So.
Was that pre-COVID?
Or were they there now? That was way pre-COVID.
Way pre-COVID. Okay.
Yeah.
How long did they live in Panama?
Oh, goodness.
Fuzzy math.
Yeah, there you go. Another fuzzy.
Was it just like a handful of years?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Very nice. Very nice. No, well, I think actually you're a good person to ask then, because I think there's this, I don't know if stigma is the right word, but there seems to be this perception of, oh, my kids aren't old enough, or what could I even do if they're there? But I think hearing that it's just, you do it. It was just part of the family. But I guess the question is, it became part of the family when your kids were, they're still young, but was it just someone who reached out and said, hey, would you go on this mission trip? Or did you seek out the opportunity to go? on your very first one?
It was just, Peggy just said, I want you to go on this mission trip with me.
Okay.
And she loved our family and loved our kids, and there we go.
Okay.
And then I guess I never even thought about it after that.
That's
They just were part of it.
That's awesome.
And one of the things that I think is really good about our church is we have many mission trips where children can go.
Yeah.
You know, my 8 that just went to Panama in February, Logan was 1.5 years old.
Okay.
And we were there 7 or 8 days, I think.
Okay.
And she was just part of the group. We did a vacation Bible school while we were there, and she was just running around just like all the rest of the children. And so it was a great experience.
Okay.
You know, the ones that were old enough, they worked in the vacation Bible school. And the younger ones, they participated in the vacation Bible school.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Because then there's just like this integration between cross-cultural things of the kids. And it's the same gospel, the same, like it's just as applicable to the American as it is to the Panamanian. So that's awesome. I think that's cool.
It is. It's such a learning experience. Savannah Grace, my oldest grandchild, she led worship. And so she had to learn everything in Spanish and the dancing and, you know, the choreography with it. So
was this with the Hakka Chinese? Do they speak Spanish?
No. They do.
They do.
But this was not with the Hakka Chinese.
Oh, okay,
this was with our church planter.
Ah, you said that. Very good.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
What
their
an
church
interesting
their church is a mix of Spanish speakers and English speakers.
Okay. Okay. Nice. How would someone in our church find opportunities like this for their family to go on a mission trip like this?
Well, the best way would be to talk to somebody on the mission committee, or either just go to our website, because on our website, they have all of our opportunities. We also have started, this is a new thing we've started, and I think it's a great idea that we have a new mission pastor. He's amazing. He has set up meetings, I think it's the first Sunday. Of every month. And so we will have a table with people there that you can talk to about missions. And it'll be various people that have been on mission and people that are on the mission committee. And if they don't know the answers, they can find them out for you.
Yeah. What are some roadblocks you feel like you have faced, and how has God worked through them? And however you want to take this question, if you want to take it now with what you're doing in ministry now, or as you look back, I feel like sometimes it's easier to look back to see how God brought you through it.
I think the biggest roadblock for me personally has been health, because I had to have heart surgery in 2015, and then I had cancer, and I had to go through all of that in 2019, and so that changed my energy levels and just really slowed me down. I was going all over the world before then, and it just God kind of said, I think you're going to stay home a while.
Yeah.
So that probably is my biggest roadblock.
How has God shown up and been faithful through that?
Well, I'm still here.
Fair.
I know. He has been very faithful. He's led me to an amazing cancer treatment center in Tijuana, Mexico. And so I'm about 2.5 years clear. And it's a Christian cancer center, and all the oncology team, they're all Christians, and
that's cool.
It's like going on a
How did you find
revival.
that cancer center?
My daughter found it.
Are both of your daughters now here local?
They are.
Okay, how wonderful is that?
Well, it's wonderful. It is wonderful.
I see all of your posts on Facebook with all of your grandchildren. How many grandchildren do you have now?
I have 8.
8.
They are so much fun.
What are they? So you have 1.5, 2.
Well, 2 to 18.
2 to 18. What a spread.
I know.
That's fun. What advice would you have for someone who's sitting and they don't know, they feel like they could be doing more, they want to do something, but they don't know where to start when it comes to living on mission?
Well, I think it's a journey anyway. So I would just say start. Just get started. And you don't have to be in a rush. You know, God's never in a rush.
Yeah.
And so I would say it would probably be a good idea to start reading some books about calling and about missions.
Do you have any books you recommend?
Oh, definitely. I have a list a mile long, but my two favorite are The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. And then for calling, I would say Is God Calling Me by Jeff Org.
Yeah, we recommend that one.
Yeah, he's incredible. And but anyway, and just take the first step, because I don't have a specific time God called me to ministry. I know a lot of people do. They have a specific time that God called them. I usually look back and I'm like, oh my goodness, God called me here. Like when we moved to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
We moved for David's job. Yeah. I didn't know until 2 years later that we didn't really move for David's job. We moved for me to be at BCM, to mobilize college students to be missionaries.
Yeah.
Because David changed jobs lots of times after that, But I was with BCM for 21 years.
Yeah.
So, and then I would say, nothing changes your heart like prayer. And so I would say start praying for the nations. Pray for the persecuted church. There's lots of prayer aids out there that you can find to
Where would
to
one find a prayer aid?
You could just find Pray for the Persecuted Church. And Google that and you'll find all kinds. There are several of them. There may be some on our website. I don't know
there
for
should
sure.
Be, but I don't know that there are.
There may be. Well, we had Nick and Ruth Ripken here a couple years ago for our Engaged Mission Conference.
Yeah.
And I know they probably have some resources also. So you can find them on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Some good resources. Yeah, I think that's just been the general, every conversation circles back to do something. Yeah. And it feels like underwhelming advice, but I also think it's like the best advice because just take a step.
Yeah. And just get started.
Yeah.
And once you get started, then take another step, because I always told my college students, because we would have all these opportunities, I'd say, start in Florida, then the next summer, go to North America somewhere, and then go international.
It's almost like this go local, go domestic, go international. Just like plays so well.
Yes. And we have some of the most exciting projects. And, you can take your family to so many of them. Panama, Ecuador, and then some in North America that we're partnering with. So.
What do you look forward to in the next season of ministry?
I look forward to going back to Panama much more often. Because we had to take a break and we were not happy during our break. So
yeah. Do you have a trip planned?
In September.
Okay. Is it the whole family again or a subset?
It's going to be a subset of the family because it's for a particular need that they have. And so my son-in-law and my husband are going, and it's going to be a little bit of a construction in this church that they were gifted.
Gotcha.
So anyway.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. And then in February, I'll put a plug in for our church trip. We're going to be going again, and we will be doing the same thing we did last February, and it was so much fun.
So
doing a vacation Bible school and community outreach.
Okay. It seems random February. Is that like a school holiday for kids there, or is this in a school?
That's their summer break, is January and February.
Oh, interesting. I think sometimes we in America get stuck in our own schedule and we just expect that the rest of the world holds the same schedule.
Yeah.
I think it's good to hear. And they're like, oh, no, that's a prime time to be going.
Yes, it is. And it's not rainy season. Rainy season is like right now, and you do not want to go then.
Okay.
So.
When in February? I mean, you can plug it.
I do not know if we have got the dates from our missionary that's there, but he will be here for Engage.
Okay.
And we'll have the dates for sure by then.
Okay.
And that's in November.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. So then finally, what advice or encouragement would you have for someone who's seeking to answer the call to make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God?
I would say to trust God, that He is very trustworthy. And you can just like I was saying about taking the steps, you can trust Him with that. You can trust Him to take the first step and the second step. And He's going to provide you with the people that you need right beside you. Just like when I got here, I had no idea Miss Gail was going to come beside us. And walk beside us and do as much, everything. And then the resources, so many people are like, well, I can't do that. I don't have the resources. Well, God owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He has the resources, and you can trust him to provide what you need.
That's awesome. Okay, I lied. Maybe I have a fun aside. You mentioned that there are like 20 BCMers of sorts that have kind of either come through the doors of First Baptist Melbourne or on the staff. Do you have any funny stories from the college years of any of those people that you feel like you would like to share?
I do, but I'm not going to.
You were saved. I think that's fair. When did you, so 21 years, when did you phase out from BCM? Because I feel like it had to have been fairly recent.
It's probably been about 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've probably been retired about 6 years, maybe 7.
Okay. Because you were still very much active when I was in college.
Yes.
And I know that it's been a while, but it still feels fresh in my brain. Okay. Awesome. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed having our conversation, even though she didn't want to share any dirty secrets.
Well, it's about our pastor.
And those are the best secrets to spill.
Something that happened when he was at FSU, but I'm not going to share it.
Well, that's fine. Maybe another episode. Thanks for coming on, Connie. I really enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mission Control. If you're interested in learning more about Launch 10X and the different ways to get involved in what God is doing here at First Baptist Melbourne, a great place to start would be visiting our website, launchme.church.